There are many forms of human trafficking. The most common are sex trafficking, the action or practice of illegally transporting people from one country or area to another for the purpose of sexual exploitation. Forced labor occurs when someone is compelled to against their will to provide work or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. Debt bondage, also known as debt slavery, bonded labor, or peonage, is the pledge of a person's services as security for the repayment for a debt or other obligation. How does sex trafficking from the U.S. to Mexico happen? Sex traffickers trick poor women and youth by telling them about a job they may have for them. They lure women away with the false belief of a job and then kidnap, transport, or sell them. Women may try to find work in the USA. To find work, they must cross the border with the help of coyotes, labor traffickers. When crossing the border illegally, there are many dangers, and one of them are the coyotes helping the people cross. Coyotes can be working with pimps, and women who they consider saleable are at risk to never arriving at their destination. Instead, they are sold and forced into the sex trafficking life. Coyotes can also tell their families that the woman died during the trip to cross the border, and the families do believe this lie. Another reason why coyotes can get away with this is because victims can't report the crime since they can be charged for being in the U.S. illegally. There is a risk for women who may want to report the coyote that sold them, therefore many of them stay in sex trafficking. Women in human trafficking are impacted negatively in the following ways: sexual exploitation, such as prostitution. Being coerced, persuading a person or people to do an act against their will, usually by force or using threats, leading to them being victims of rape or sexual assault, which can also impact their health sexually. They can get the following sexually transmitted infections. Hepatitis C and HIV/AIDS. Pregnancies can also happen since sex is being done without a condom, which can lead to abortions being done in unsafe ways to keep women trapped in sex trafficking. A woman's mental health is also affected negatively. Some examples are shown in the photos. Women who have been trafficked for sex are affected in many ways. Many victims of human sex trafficking are affected mentally and physically. Mentally trafficking victims may experience symptoms such as anxiety, depression, memory loss, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, panic attacks, and stress-related disorders. Physically trafficking victims may have bruises, scars, and lacerations from physical abuse. According to Novotny, 2023, she states studies show that women who have been trafficked for sex have high levels of fear, are more isolated, and have greater trauma and mental health needs than other victims of crime. Law enforcement. Train law enforcement on how to properly interact with possible trafficking victims. Refer victims to the appropriate resources: mental health, medical, legal, and housing resources. Unlearn racial bias that might negatively affect POC victims and result in a lack of protection. Display information about human trafficking on public transportation. Immigration. Employ more safeguards for immigrants on work visas. Advise immigrants on work visas of their worker rights. Legal protection from previous crimes a trafficking victim might have committed due to being trafficked. Community-based work. Access to educational resources and funding. Access to employment opportunities. Access to both long and short-term housing. These are some individual solutions you can take. Educate yourself and others about human trafficking and signs of possible trafficking. Aid in dismantling misinformation about human trafficking. Advocate for more protection for victims of human trafficking. Donate both your time and money to organizations that aid victims. Patronize businesses that have ethical workplace practices. Be informed on who to contact. National Human Trafficking Hotline, 888-373-788. You can also call 911.
I am Dr. Niecy Hamilton, and I am a survivor of human trafficking. When I was 15, I had aged out of foster care, and I was homeless. And I remember running into a homegirl who told me, hey, I have a solution for your problem. I work as a waitress at a strip club. You can use my ID to work at another strip club while I work at this strip club, and all you're doing is waitressing. You make money, my boyfriend will keep your baby, and hey, you'll be good. As the boyfriend's keeping my baby, he goes, you can't get your kid back unless you make me $200 a day. He's going to the strip club, bragging about how much money he's making off of me. And there's another pimp that's sitting in the club. He sends a message to the girls that he's already pimping out to me that I can make $200 a day faster if I'm no longer a waitress, but a stripper, because he wants to see what am I willing to give up or what am I willing to sacrifice. That was barrier testing. Let me test your limits. The betrayal comes in, baby, you ain't been working. It's hard for me to get your hair and your nails done like I used to. I need you to bring in some money. So we're talking about from 15 to 19. I had already been trafficked and sleeping with every bit of about 1,500 men at this point. I made a decision to enlist into the Navy without my pimp knowing about it. And when he found out, I still got beat. And I remember begging the officer, please don't arrest me. Please don't arrest me. I said, I'm leaving to the Navy. This is the only chance. This is the only chance I got to get away. I need you to help me. And he looked at me and he said, I believe you. But had I been arrested that night, I wouldn't have survived human trafficking.